Maya let out a hollow laugh. People said things without saying them. Her eyes drifted downward. Sometimes silence hurts more than words. Daniel understood that kind of silence. The kind that wasn't empty, but heavy, sharp even. The kind that made a person feel like they were standing alone in a crowded room. He'd lived through too many days when people didn't say what they thought of a widowed janitor with a crying infant in his arms. They didn't ask how he was coping. They didn't offer help. They just looked. And the looks did more damage than anything anyone could have said aloud. He leaned on the counter beside her, arms folded loosely. Yeah, he murmured. Silence can cut deeper than yelling. Maya's lips pressed together for a moment. She nodded, almost imperceptibly, like she hadn't expected anyone to actually get it. The baby stirred softly against her chest, his tiny hand twitching before settling again. She instinctively laid her palm over his back, steady and protective. That single gesture, gentle, reflexive, told Daniel more about her than anything she'd said. You're good with him, he said quietly. Her jaw tensed, and she didn't look up. I'm trying. There was something about the way she said it, like the words were scraped out of her, like they hid an entire battlefield behind them. Daniel didn't push. He'd learned long ago that pushing made people run. Listening made people breathe. He glanced at the coffee machine, watching the slow drip stretch the quiet between them. Trying is more than most people manage. She exhaled shakily. Feels like failing, most days. Daniel understood failure too. Failure was a language he'd been fluent in since the night his wife died. The night Lily cried until she couldn't breathe, and he realized he had no map for the life he'd just fallen into. He wiped his hands on his uniform pants, letting the silence sit, not heavy this time, but warm enough to soften the edges. You know, he said, when Lily was his age, I used to think every mistake I made was going to ruin her for life. Maya's eyes lifted a little, curiosity flickering through exhaustion. What changed? She asked. Daniel smiled faintly. Nothing. I still make mistakes. But she turned out okay anyway. Maya huffed, something like amusement pushing through her fatigue. Lucky kid. Lucky me, he corrected. Her eyes softened at that. The hallway outside hummed with the distant sound of the building slowly coming alive, custodians rolling carts, teachers unlocking classrooms, doors clicking open. But here in this little break room, the world felt paused. Maya shifted slightly, adjusting the baby in the carrier. Her arms trembled from the subtle effort. Daniel noticed immediately. You can sit, you know, he said gently. What? He motioned to the stool by the wall. Your legs look like they're planning a mutiny. For a second, she just blinked, like she had forgotten her own body existed. Then she let out a shaky breath and lowered herself onto the stool, one careful inch at a time. When she finally sat, her shoulders sagged, and her head tipped back against the wall. Not because she relaxed, she didn't look capable of that yet, but because gravity had stopped giving her a choice. Daniel pretended not to notice how her hands shook once they were free of her weight. Didn't sleep? He asked softly. Maya scoffed again. The sound wasn't bitter, just tired beyond normal human limits. He was sick last night. Fever finally broke at 3. That's rough. And I had PT at 5. She rubbed her eyes with one hand. Chain of command doesn't care if your baby kept you up all night. Daniel frowned. They know you have a baby? The corners of her mouth twitched, humorless. They know. They just don't care. Something darkened in Daniel's expression for a moment, but he forced it away. It wouldn't help her if he got angry on her behalf, even if it clawed at him. You must have someone, he ventured gently. Family? Friends? Her silence answered before she did. He nodded once. Right. Okay. She swallowed hard. Everyone's far. Far. Not gone. But distance could feel like disappearance when you needed someone to lean on and found only empty space. Daniel turned off the coffee maker as it finished brewing. He poured a cup and set it on the table beside her, not pushing it into her hands, just placing it where she could take it if she wanted. She didn't reach for it right away. She looked at it the way tired people look at things they're not sure they're allowed to accept. You can drink it, Daniel said softly. It's not a trap. That earned the faintest smile. Barely there, but real. She wrapped one hand around the mug, the heat sinking into her fingers. She held it close but didn't drink it, maybe afraid it would burn, maybe afraid she didn't have the strength to swallow. You know, Daniel said casually, if anyone deserves a hot cup of coffee without having to fight the universe for it, it's someone running on 2 hours of sleep and a baby. She let out a tired chuckle. 2 hours is generous. Daniel blinked. How much? 40 minutes. He stared at her. 40? Maya. She raised a shoulder in a helpless shrug. He wouldn't settle. And what about you? She sighed. I was afraid to fall asleep. His fever kept spiking. Every time he made a noise I shot up like I'd been hit with electricity. Daniel's chest tightened, a familiar ache blooming. Yeah, he murmured. I remember that. She looked at him, really looked this time, like she was trying to understand how a janitor could understand the panic of a baby's fever at 2 a.m. Must have been hard, she said it was, he admitted. But worth it. The baby made a small sound, half sigh, half mumble, and Daniel softened further. What's his name? He asked. Her expression flickered, pain, love, fear, all tangled together. Ethan. That's a strong name. His dad picked it, she whispered. Daniel didn't ask the next question forming in his mind. The one that hovered between them, heavy and loud. Where is he now? Some wounds didn't need fingers poked into them. Instead, he asked, does Ethan's dad get to see him? Maya's throat bobbed. No, his choice or mine, she said quickly. Too quickly. Then quieter, sometimes choosing is the only way to survive something. Daniel understood that too. Survival wasn't always brave. Sometimes it was just desperate. Sometimes it was ugly. But it was still survival. He grabbed a clean cloth from the counter and wiped down the surface just to give his hands something to do. You know, he said casually, most people wouldn't carry all this alone. Maya's eyes glistened. Most people didn't have parents in the military. Ah. There it was. The pressure. The expectations. The weight of legacy. He could almost hear it, the unspoken judgment of commanding parents who measured love and discipline and emotions in success. They trained me to be strong, she said quietly. But they forgot to tell me what to do when strength ran out. Daniel froze for a moment. Then his voice softened in a way that made the small room feel warmer. Strength doesn't run out, he said. It just changes shape. She blinked, confused. He gestured to her and the sleeping baby. Right now your strength looks like getting up after 40 minutes of sleep. It looks like holding him even when your arms are shaking. It looks like walking in here and not collapsing. Her lips trembled. Strength isn't loud, Daniel added. Sometimes it's just not giving up. Maya stared at him, eyes wet but not breaking. Not yet. Maybe not ever, not in front of someone she hardly knew. But he could see the edges soften, the walls loosen, just a fraction. And what about you? She whispered. Where's your strength? Daniel smiled with a quiet sadness. Sleeping in a classroom down the hall, probably drooling on her backpack. A soft laugh slipped out. Not hollow. Not heavy. A real one. It changed her whole face. Daniel didn't say anything else. He didn't need to. Some moments didn't require words, just presence. The baby breathed softly, deeply, completely at peace. For the first time that morning, Maya looked like she believed she might survive the day, and Daniel, standing in the dim break room, watching a soldier rebuild herself piece by fragile piece, knew this wasn't just routine anymore. This wasn't just morning coffee or hallway greetings. This was something shifting quietly in the fabric of his life, and he didn't know it yet, but helping her, seeing her, would change everything. If you'd like, I can now write white heavy checkmark next chapter white heavy checkmark dialogue heavy version white heavy checkmark more emotional slow burn white heavy checkmark 5 photo prompts for this chapter just tell me.